Thanks, Emily, and to everyone who put together this amazing event. It is awesome to be here. I mean, the energy outside today was unreal. I sincerely hope this is the first of many events like this to come. So a round of applause for everyone who is out here just killing it today. Oh, man. So my name is Amy Pollak, and you've heard about me and our family. So I am a heart health doctor, but I definitely am a mom and a wrecker, and then just a person who's trying to navigate the day-to-day life that we all have with the challenges, the many ups and downs. So my challenge today was to come up with some way to talk about technology, the heart, knitting it all together with how can we take the best care of our hearts and have them work for us for a nice, long, healthy life. So we're going to go to this next slide. I have just a couple of slides to anchor what I wanted to talk about. And a couple of numbers. So 100,000. This is the number of times your heart beats every day. That's 3 billion heartbeats in a lifetime. Our heart doesn't get a break. It's always there for us. And, I know we're just meeting a lot of you for the first time, but as Jason said, for the folks that I know in the audience, I'm not like a very frou-frou person, but I think that there's a lot that we can learn from some basic things. So I'd like to do a little exercise, if you guys will hang with me. So I want you to close your eyes. Just want you to focus on taking a deep breath in, deep breath out. Just these nice centering breaths. This is something that most of us don't do enough in the day. And now I want you to take your hand and put it over your heart, kind of that Pledge of Allegiance position, and just focus on feeling that pounding in your heart, that strong intensity of that heartbeat. This mind-heart breathing connection is so important. You'll hear more about that today. Just focus on that for just a moment. So when you're ready, go ahead and open your eyes. We're going to come back to that connection. But I think that centering is such an important exercise because it really anchors what we need to think about with our heart. This is the 4-chamber view of your heart using a CAT scan. And we have incredible ways to look at our hearts nowadays, incredible diagnostic ways. We live in the most advanced medical time, but yet we're still, as a society, sedentary. And we still are plagued with the number one cause of death for Americans is heart disease. That's a sobering statistic. And part of why I became a cardiologist, you'll hear about that later, is because of my family history. But I think it's important, who here in this audience has some family member who's been affected by heart disease? So almost everybody. So this impacts us all. So it is critical that even though this is a group that's active, exercising, fit, that we focus on ways that we can keep our hearts healthy. 80%. So this number is crazy to me because 80% of our risk for heart disease is related to things that we can control. Activity, blood pressure, cholesterol, what we eat, tobacco use, stress. And when we look at the top 4 things that are related to risk of dying across the world, not unsurprisingly, blood pressure, tobacco use, blood sugar like diabetes. But number four is what we're here this weekend working on. It's inactivity. So everyone here this weekend gets an A+ for activity. We were out there tearing it up. And this is a group that comes together as a community focused on activity. And I love that. And we need to grow that. We need to expand that. So when we think about ways that we can leverage technology for our heart and fitness, this is an interesting graph to me. And it looks at the number of apps, whether it's fitness, exercise, health, that are available in the US market starting from 2015 and then projected out to 2026. And you can see this really incremental rise, and we're on this steep upslope. So there's a lot that's available, but we need to find ways to use this technology for meaningful changes for our health and lifestyle. And I'll give you some tips for how I think we should do that. So this EKG, this is one of our standard tests of the heart. This technology is old, like 1800s circa old, and it hasn't changed since that time. But what has changed is some additional information we can get out of this very basic graph paper tracing using artificial intelligence. I mean, it's really crazy, some additional information we can get about what's going on in the heart. Even things like using voice recordings, we can help predict somebody's risk of having a heart attack or stroke. And that blows my mind. That's just very cutting edge technology. It was just released earlier this spring. So I don't know what my voice says in terms of heart risk, but there is information about our hearts that we can get from how we speak and even hearing. So this is a CAT scan image of your heart blood vessels. And the reason I wanted to show this is to highlight, not that long ago, we would have to do an invasive procedure to look at somebody's heart arteries. But now we can leverage technology such as using a CAT scan to really look under the surface and see what is going on with somebody's blood vessels. Even things like procedures that we used to do to fix somebody's heart valve. You've already heard my husband's a cardiologist. He's an interventionalist and used to have everybody open heart surgery to have a new heart valve put in, stay in the hospital for a week, month-long recovery after that. Now you can go home that same day or the next day. It's really dramatic, fixed through a blood vessel. So the technology for how we take care of our hearts has changed immensely. But there's not really a fountain of youth. I mean, there technically is a location south of here that's called the Fountain of Youth. I've been there. So I think many of you, our 5-year-old was actually terrified to drink from the Fountain of Youth because he was like, I don't want to get smaller. I, however, was game to drink from it, and nothing happened other than I wasn't dehydrated. But there's no really proverbial Fountain of Youth. But I would say that what I have learned as a physician for, I guess, almost 20 years now, it doesn't seem like that long, a cardiologist for about 11 of those, is sort of my approach as a mom, wife, cardiologist person for how to live with heart. And these are not principles that I nail every day, probably not even every other day, but these are the principles that I really strive to live by and encourage my patients to strive to live by as well. So I'm a big kind of keep it simple, things that you can remember on one hand, kind of 5 is a magic number for me. So for heart, we'll talk about each of these: health, eating, activity, risk factors, and time. So health. This is broad, and I purposefully had this broad. It's more of what Jason talks about as the systems check. I love, obviously, I drink the Kool-Aid with GoRuck, part of the community, and really believe in the power of coming together for fitness and community. But there's always a systems check challenge in January, and that resonates with me every year because it's important to take a step back and look at the lay of the land. Where's our health at? What are our numbers? Do we know our blood pressure? Have we had our cholesterol checked? And doctors are not usually very good patients, but it's very important for all of us to take that time to make sure once a year we have a health check. And furthermore, it's critical to pay attention for symptoms. We think about heart disease as being a cholesterol buildup, and that's a lot of what heart disease involves. But heart disease is a big umbrella term, and it affects other areas that can impact the heart, the electrical system, ways our heart can be impacted, not related to cholesterol, some genetic things. So if you have new symptoms, you have to prioritize your health and wellness and take action to get that checked out. There's a lot we can get from technology nowadays, just even on our watch or our phone. So there's a EKG from my watch last week, and this is really mind-blowing to me that we can have this kind of data from technology in our hands. You can do ultrasounds of the heart using a handheld echo machine. When I was learning to be a cardiologist, it was literally a huge machine. You have to push, you're like sweating and pushing it down the hallway. But now it just attaches to your iPhone. So there's so much we can learn about the heart just at that palm of our hands. So eating. Who doesn't love eating? I mean, there's so many amazing things that we have to eat. And there's lots of advice you'll have about diets and eating approaches. But I wanted to share one story. There are these life-changing moments that we think about when we look back. You're getting married, having a child, These are ones that are easy to point out that are going to be life-changing. Losing somebody we love. But sometimes these life-changing moments come in smaller packages. And this was a Christmas present that Emily McCarthy, who is known as the salad queen in our social circles, dropped off December of 2020. Like, think back, December of 2020, everything's looking a little bleak, people aren't as connected, and then this, or bag like this comes at our doorstep. What was in it were all the ingredients to one of her signature salads. So this was a delightful dinner surprise, kind of whipped it up, and her salads are so good. But the reason why it was this turning point for me is even as a cardiologist, I was really resistant to packing a lunch. I mean, we pack our kids' lunches, you're making a healthy dinner, and I was just not on the table from my perspective. So you're busy at work, and one thing leads to the next, and all of a sudden you're not eating the way you really want to be eating. But for some reason, this clicked, this moment, for both my husband and I. We're like, we can do this. So we have a little bin with nuts, little craisin, chop up some quick avocado, put on the arugula. And there is lots of versions, some little spicy wasabi peas or whatever you're going to do to make it interesting so it's not the same day in and day out. But I've had some version of this salad every day for lunch at work since December 2020, and I really enjoy it. So you have to find your version of an Emily McCarthy salad or whatever it is that's going to be motivating to you to make those life changes that impact us every day. Mediterranean diet, high in fruits and vegetables. What's amazing to me about this is that you live longer. What we eat matters. You know, eating a hamburger, a delicious steak, a piece of cheesecake, I'm all for it. You know, enjoy those foods in moderation, but it's those choices we make on a regular basis that impact how long we live and also our chances of having a heart attack or stroke. And I like this picture because our daughter actually cooked this stir fry. So it's important that we're teaching our children these healthy habits in addition to going out and enjoying some ice cream with them. So Mediterranean diet, finding those key changes that you can really implement that stick with you. So activity, again, you guys nailed that this weekend. I think the key is trying to find the activity that you can integrate into your life, rain or shine, day in, day out, doing it with community. This is our daughter. Whether or not it's doing high-intensity interval-based training, not just GoRuck, but there's so many other wonderful ways of incorporating that, and finding those aspirational types of exercise. So this next image is going to be one of a mountain in Grand Tetons, and I had been training to try to get to the top of this mountain using skis, where you kind of skin up. And this is way outside of my comfort zone. Michael Easter, where are you with Comfort Crisis? I was definitely A+ there. And I didn't get as high as I wanted to. I'd never done this really before. But to me, this is one of the most beautiful sights, even though it's not particularly well shot for the picture, because I worked so hard to get there. I didn't achieve my ultimate goal, and that's okay. We all fail at goals we set. And the important part is that we refocus, and I'm training. I'm going to get up there next year. So risk factors. We need to know about family history. As I mentioned, I have a family history of heart disease, so we need to be talking about this, knowing what other risk factors you have. And then time. Gosh, this is the hardest one. Nobody has enough time. It's that elusive thing that just keeps clicking by. But I think finding time to have this mindfulness, this meaningful connection with other people, and this time for ourselves, that is really critical. That is probably one of the most important things we can do, find ways to recharge ourselves and having that meaningful connection. So you've seen some of these ladies speak already today, and then Monica's been behind the scenes making sure that we're all running together well. These are some of my favorite people and the folks that I turn to for that meaningful connection, rucking, being outside, having that community. So just encouraging us to continue to do that community building and reaching out. There's going to be ups and downs in all of our lives, more than we're going to want to count, but having that time with friends and family. So you're probably saying, this sounds great, living with heart, kind of what I've been trying to do anyways, but some nice refresher points, different perspective. But this is hard. I mean, life gets in the way. So yes, so we all like a challenge. We wouldn't be here if we didn't like a challenge. And there are really 5 things that get in the way of me trying to lead the life that I want to, living with heart. And I'm just going to briefly tell you what these are as a way to challenge you in case this is something that is affecting you. So challenge number 1 is avoiding bedtime rumination. Our puppy Roxy goes to sleep very easily. I do not. Because I'm sitting there, lying there, making lists, mentally ruminating about all this stuff. So we need to come up with a different narrative, reclaim that bedtime if you're an evening ruminator like me. So that's a big challenge. Challenge 2 is remembering to breathe. And that's why we did that breathing exercise. When we're stressed out, we kind of hold our breath. And it's amazing how often we do that during the day. And that actually impacts how much blood returns to our heart, so how effectively our heart can pump blood out. And it actually affects our basal metabolic rate. So if you're wanting to burn more calories, we got to make sure you're taking good deep breaths and not just holding our breath under stress. Challenge 3 is starting the day on your own terms. I mean, the alarm clock goes off and all of a sudden, like we're out of the gate running, lots of demands on our time. Find some way to start the day on your own terms, whether it's exercise, coffee, meditation, whatever it is. Then challenge 4, just remembering to embrace life's simple joys. Gosh, walking over here, hearing the laughter and the music, like that was one of life's simple joys, and just soaking up that energy. These are flowers our son had given me from our yard. And then challenge 5 and last is just that, again, connecting with friends and family. Social isolation actually leads to a higher risk of heart attack and stroke, and it doesn't feel good. So it's not good for our hearts. Coming together like we are now as a community and continuing to have events like this, as well as those little moments with friends and family, those are good for our hearts. So before I close, I just want to thanks to my husband for being my sounding board and my partner, to our sweet kiddos, and to all of you for being here. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I look forward to living with heart together with you. Thank you.